Look closely at the cracked, barren earth stretching beneath the blinding sun. It is a landscape of shattered clay, deep ravines, and crusty ridges baked by the merciless African heat. But this is not the ground beneath our feet. This is the living, breathing, impenetrable armor of a 3-ton hippopotamus. Every deep groove in this thick, gray skin is a micro-habitat teeming with relentless life. Swarms of aggressive flies buzz incessantly in the oppressive, stagnant air. Blood-swollen ticks cling stubbornly to the sensitive folds of flesh, draining the energy of the colossal beast. The giant grunts heavily, shifting its massive bulk in the rapidly shrinking mud pool. The sound of its breathing is like a low rumble of distant thunder. Suddenly, a tiny, agile shadow drops abruptly from the blinding white sky. It does not fear the crushing, bone-snapping jaws or the notoriously unpredictable rage of the river horse. Sharp, curved claws lock onto the coarse, muddy skin with absolute precision. A vibrant flash of crimson and gold reveals the arrival of the red-billed oxpecker. This small, chattering bird, barely the size of a human fist, is the undisputed micro-ruler of the giants. How does such a fragile, seemingly defenseless creature survive in a realm dominated by the deadliest killing machines on the continent? To understand their secret, we must look beyond the sheer size of the predators and prey that roam this ancient land. The African savanna during the peak of the dry season is a cruel, unforgiving crucible. The relentless equatorial sun scorches the endless golden grasses until they turn to brittle ash. Water, the very essence of life, becomes a fading, desperate memory. Once mighty rivers shrink into stagnant, isolated puddles choked with mud and desperation. This suffocating environmental pressure forces massive herds into highly concentrated zones. Cape buffaloes, territorial hippos, and hungry predators are pushed into dangerously close quarters along the evaporating riverbanks. The tension in the dry, dusty air is palpable and heavy. One wrong move, one moment of weakness or distraction means certain agonizing death. Yet, high above the choking dust and the constant panic of the herds, the oxpeckers navigate the chaos with supreme confidence. They operate under a hidden, unwritten law of this complex ecosystem. While the lions, leopards, and crocodiles rule this domain through brute force, stealth, and violent ambush, the oxpeckers rule through a masterclass in biological manipulation. They are the untouchables of the animal kingdom. Even the most aggressive, battle-scarred buffalo, capable of tossing a full-grown lion into the air, stands perfectly still for these winged surgeons. They are granted an exclusive VIP pass to ride safely on the backs of monsters. But this extraordinary privilege is not born out of pure kindness or simple, harmonious friendship. It is a high-stakes, purely transactional relationship negotiated over millions of years of ruthless evolution. The giants offer the birds a moving, heavily armored fortress. It is a mobile sanctuary elevated safely above the stalking predators hidden in the tall, dry grass below. In return, the oxpeckers offer a critical service that no other creature on the savanna can provide. They are the ultimate, relentless pest control, tirelessly scanning every single inch of their massive hosts' bodies. To the oxpecker, the world is not a flat plain, but a vertical cliff face of muscle, hide, and coarse hair. To cling to these moving mountains, the bird has developed extraordinary, highly specialized anatomical adaptations. Their feet are uniquely equipped with 2 toes pointing forward and 2 pointing backward, acting exactly like biological grappling hooks. Their tail feathers are incredibly stiff and strong, pressing firmly against the animal's flank to act as a supportive tripod. This posture is much like a woodpecker clinging to the side of a vertical tree trunk. This evolutionary design allows them to move sideways, upside down, and even deep into the ears and nostrils of the great beasts. With startling agility, they scour the vast landscape of the buffalo's back with a specialized, laterally compressed beak. This bright red beak is a precision instrument, perfectly designed to part dense, matted fur. It plucks out engorged parasites with the surgical accuracy of a trained professional. The feast is abundant, but the daily work is incredibly demanding and fraught with constant physical risk. The giants are always moving, always twitching, and always reacting to the biting insects. A single oxpecker can meticulously locate and consume hundreds of ticks and thousands of fly larvae in a single day. They are literally cleaning the ecosystem, one tiny parasite at a time, preventing disease from spreading through the vital herds. They are the unsung guardians of the savanna's most powerful residents. Their daily routine is a delicate, intricate dance of survival performed on the edge of a razor. Every flick of a buffalo's ear, every sudden plunge of a hippo into the water requires split-second reactions from the tiny birds. They must hold on for dear life or risk being crushed underfoot in a sudden stampede. Yet, they ride with the swagger of conquerors, their sharp calls cutting through the low grunts and bellows of their massive steeds. For now, the dry season rages on, and the partnership remains strong. But a deeper look reveals that this relationship is far more complex than it appears on the surface. The true nature of the oxpecker is about to be exposed. As the relentless midday sun beats down on the open plains, the true nature of this remarkable partnership unfolds in microscopic detail. Listen closely to the coarse, muddy hide of the Cape buffalo. Amidst the heavy rhythmic breathing of the 3-ton giant, there is a constant, frenetic rustling. It is the sound of a meticulous, almost surgical operation taking place on a living battlefield. The red-billed oxpecker moves with erratic, jerky precision. Its stiff tail feathers brace against the steep, vertical incline of the buffalo's ribs, providing an incredibly stable platform. With lightning speed, the laterally compressed beak strikes. Snip. A blood-engorged tick, swollen to the size of a marble, is effortlessly plucked from deep within a fold of leathery skin. The sound is oddly satisfying, a tiny pop echoing in the vast stillness of the scorching afternoon. The bird tosses its head back, swallowing the parasite whole before immediately resuming its frantic search. This is not merely a meal, it is a full-scale biological invasion reversed. The oxpecker combs through the dense, matted hair, targeting the most vulnerable areas, the soft skin around the eyes, the sensitive inner rims of the ears, and the delicate nostrils. For the buffalo, this deep cleaning is a welcome relief, a necessary defense against a silent, blood-sucking army that multiplies endlessly in the heat. But nature is rarely a tale of pure altruism. There is a darker, far more sinister side to this seemingly perfect symbiosis. When the ticks are scarce and the easily accessible parasites have been stripped away, the oxpecker's true predatory instinct reveals itself. The sharp beak, perfectly evolved for plucking, becomes a weapon of subtle torment. If a buffalo has an open wound, a scrape from a thorny acacia bush, or a gash from a recent predator attack, the oxpecker zeroes in on the exposed flesh. Instead of cleaning the injury, the bird actively pecks at the healing scabs. It deliberately keeps the wound open and bleeding, sipping the nutrient-rich blood of its host directly from the source. In these moments, the line between dedicated guardian and opportunistic parasite blurs completely. They are, in essence, the elegant, tolerated vampires of the African savanna. Yet, the giants endure this micro-predation. The minor loss of blood is a small price to pay for the invaluable early warning system these birds provide. With their elevated vantage point, oxpeckers possess a sweeping view of the surrounding tall grass. At the first sign of a creeping lion or a stealthy leopard, the birds erupt into a chorus of sharp, rattling alarm calls. Chirr, chirr, chirr. The piercing sound acts as a biological siren, instantly alerting the heavy, slow-moving herbivores to the impending danger. The buffaloes raise their massive, horned heads, snapping into a defensive formation, all thanks to the vigilance of a creature weighing less than 2 ounces. This complex dance of mutual benefit and subtle exploitation continues day after day, but survival is not just about feeding, it is about securing the future. As the dry season tightens its grip on the landscape, the instinct to reproduce becomes an overwhelming drive. Far from the muddy banks and the roaming herds, a pair of red-billed oxpeckers seeks refuge in the towering canopy of an ancient acacia tree. Its gnarled branches, armed with long, vicious white thorns, offer a heavily fortified sanctuary. Deep within the thick, scarred trunk, a natural hollow left by a fallen branch becomes the focal point of their existence. When they first discover the cavity, it is dark, empty, and exposed to the elements. To raise a family in this unforgiving environment, they must transform this bare wooden chamber into a soft, secure fortress. The parents become tireless architects. They abandon the backs of the hippos temporarily, turning their attention to the dry, sun-baked earth. For days on end, they gather the necessary building materials with frantic energy. They collect stiff blades of dried grass, fine, hair-like roots, and soft, crumbling soil. But the most crucial element of their nest comes directly from the beasts they ride. With fearless audacity, the birds pluck coarse animal fur and fine undercoat hairs straight from the living, breathing bodies of their giant companions. Layer by meticulous layer, they line the bottom of the dark tree hollow. The harsh, thorny exterior of the acacia tree sharply contrasts with the incredibly soft, insulated bed taking shape inside. Finally, after days of exhausting labor under the blistering sun, the nest is complete. In the quiet darkness of the hollow, the female lays exactly 3 small, heavily speckled eggs. These 3 fragile orbs represent the entirety of their genetic legacy for this grueling season. They are a desperate gamble against the formidable odds of the wild. From this moment on, the parents are bound to a relentless cycle of incubation and foraging. They must take turns keeping the eggs at a constant, life-sustaining temperature, never leaving them exposed for long. While one parent remains hidden in the dark, sweltering heat of the tree cavity, the other must fly out into the harsh glare of the savanna. Every single foraging trip is a plunge back into the chaotic world of the moving herds. They must dodge thrashing tails, heavy hooves, and snapping jaws to gather enough energy to sustain themselves and the precious life developing inside the eggs. But the towering acacia tree, while seemingly impenetrable, is not a flawless sanctuary. The vibrant pulse of new life acts as an irresistible beacon for the savanna's most silent and deadly assassins. The savanna is a realm where the scent of a fresh nest rarely goes unnoticed. While the oxpecker parents fiercely defend their territory from rival birds, larger threats loom in the periphery. High above in the sprawling canopy, opportunistic crows with sharp, calculating eyes watch the parents' flight paths, waiting for a single moment of negligence. Down below, sliding silently through the tangled, thorny undergrowth, a tree-climbing snake begins its slow, methodical ascent. The cold-blooded predator tastes the air, its forked tongue picking up the unmistakable chemical signature of the nest. The eggs, hidden away in their soft bed of stolen fur, are entirely defenseless. The parents' desperate gamble is now a race against time, predators, and the inevitable shift of the seasons. The air is growing thicker, heavier, and the distant horizon is beginning to bruise with the dark, menacing colors of an approaching storm. The oppressive heat of the long, dry season finally breaks. A sudden, violent gust of wind rips across the savanna. It carries the unmistakable, heavy scent of distant rain. The sky, once a blinding, unforgiving white, turns a deep, bruising purple. Lightning fractures the horizon, followed instantly by the bone-rattling roar of thunder. Then, the sky opens up. The first torrential downpour strikes the baked earth like a physical blow. Thick, blinding sheets of rain transform the dusty plains into a chaotic, slippery expanse of deep mud. For the massive herds of Cape buffalo and hippopotamus, the rain brings instant, cooling relief. But for the tiny red-billed oxpeckers, this sudden atmospheric violence is a profound crisis. High up in the swaying branches of the acacia tree, the parents face a terrifying ordeal. Their 3 fragile eggs have finally hatched. Inside the dark, damp cavity, 3 blind, naked chicks are shivering in the sudden drop in temperature. They are entirely dependent on their parents for warmth and a constant, uninterrupted supply of food. The parents cannot simply wait out the storm. They must fly directly into the teeth of the gale. Down below, the sudden explosion of thunder has spooked a massive herd of Cape buffalo. The air is filled with the deafening, terrifying sound of thousands of heavy hooves pounding the slippery mud. It is a full-blown stampede. The giants are panicked, blindly charging through the pouring rain, horns clashing in the chaos. Into this deadly, moving maze of muscle and bone, the tiny winged guardians must descend. This is the ultimate test of their evolutionary design. The oxpeckers dive into the stampede, their sharp claws acting as vital lifelines. They must land perfectly on the slick, wet hides of the violently thrashing beasts. A single miscalculation, a momentary slip of their grip, means being trampled into the unforgiving mud. Yet, they navigate the chaos with astonishing, almost supernatural agility. They cling sideways to the sprinting buffaloes, plucking ticks and maggots from the frantic animals, even as the herd runs for its life. They gather mouthfuls of blood-rich parasites, battling the ferocious wind to carry the vital protein back to the swaying acacia tree. Against all odds, through days of torrential rain and relentless foraging, the parents succeed. The 3 blind chicks slowly transform. Their pale, fragile skin gives way to strong, water-resistant feathers. Their eyes open, taking in the dim light of their wooden sanctuary. Weeks pass, and the relentless rains begin to ease. The once-dead savanna has exploded into a vibrant, lush, emerald-green paradise. Inside the nest, the space has become far too cramped for the growing family. The most critical moment in the life of any young bird has finally arrived. One fledgling, its feathers still slightly ruffled, tentatively hops to the edge of the tree hollow. It peers cautiously out into the blinding, expansive world for the very first time. Down below, the river is swollen and fast-moving. A pod of massive hippos is submerged in the rushing water, their slick gray backs looking like polished stepping stones. The fledgling does not need to land on a stationary branch or solid ground. Its instinct demands that its very first landing must be on the back of a living, breathing, unpredictable giant. The tiny bird hesitates, its heart pounding against its fragile ribs. It watches the hippos moving slowly in the currents below. It calculates the distance, the wind, and the terrifying drop. Then, it spreads its small, untested wings and leaps into the open void. The first flight is awkward, clumsy, and terrifyingly brief. It loses altitude rapidly, its wings beating frantically against the heavy, humid air. Just feet above the churning water, it extends its specialized claws. With a sudden, jarring impact, it slams into the thick, muddy flank of a resting hippo. The sharp claws catch instantly, locking onto the coarse skin like tiny anchors. The young bird uses its stiff tail feathers to stabilize itself against the slippery incline. It has survived the leap. Soon after, the second and third siblings follow, taking their own desperate plunges into the wild. They are no longer helpless prisoners of the acacia tree. They stand proudly atop their giant steeds, instinctively scanning the horizon for danger and the hide for sustenance. They begin to clumsily pluck at the mud, learning the ancient, bloody trade of their ancestors. The breeding season has reached its victorious conclusion. The great cycle of the savanna continues unbroken. The mighty predators will continue to hunt, and the massive herds will continue to migrate. But high above the tall grass, riding on the backs of the most formidable beasts in Africa, the true masters of survival endure. In the wild, true power is not always about being the biggest, the strongest, or the most lethal. Sometimes, the greatest mastery of nature belongs to the smallest and boldest. It belongs to those who understand that to survive the giants, you do not fight them. You simply learn how to ride them. If you were captivated by this incredible story of survival on the African savanna, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts.